Hello and welcome back to the Looli News for Tuesday, December 23rd. My name is Colleen Christensen and I am the Chief Content Officer here at Looli. This is your morning report of the latest headlines and trends that have been researched and reviewed by our team of experts, so you know what to actually take to heart and what to just chalk up to clickbaity noise. We've got a full news day for your Tuesday with 3 stories, so let's dive in, shall we? Our first headline says, sugar-free sweeteners may still be harming your liver. So essentially, this study, they examined sugar-free sweeteners focusing mostly on sorbitol, and they found that a common ingredient in fruits, it is naturally occurring in some foods, and many sugar-free products. So they're focusing on this sorbitol, and it can be converted to something called fructose in the liver, which this process in very high amounts can contribute to things like metabolic changes, increased liver fat, high triglycerides, and insulin resistance. So they're essentially claiming that the idea of these sugar-free kind of sweeteners, specifically sorbitol, doesn't automatically mean metabolically neutral. So they're kind of saying like, whoa, 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 hold the phone on these sugar-free alternatives. So let's take a little bit closer look at this and kind of put it all into perspective. So firstly, it's important to note that the study was done on zebrafish. I'm not a zebrafish. Really, they were exposing these fish in their water to these different conditions. So the article does not report a specific human dose of sorbitol used in the experiment that can be directly applied to our human consumption. This was mainly a mechanistic study, which means that its purpose was really to demonstrate that a pathway exists, not necessarily to establish a human kind of like relevant exposure threshold. So now let's put this into context for what it means for us on a daily basis. When you look at the typical diet of a sorbitol, about 1 to 2 grams per day from fruit and about 5 to 15 grams from about a moderate sugar-free product intakes. 50 to 100 grams per day of fructose or harmful effects have been observed in studies with humans. So really only these very high repeated consumption of these sugar-free, think like candies, gum, or low sugar products, may potentially approach these levels if that's like what you're really consuming on a day-to-day basis. They did also note that individual gut bacteria influences how much fructose is actually reaching the liver. So the headline of may still be harming your liver, we know that really water, the sun, can be toxic in high quantities. But really, when we boil it down to what does the average person consume on a day-to-day basis, it is far below the amount that is seen to have a lot of these very negative effects. As usual, in many cases, the dose makes the poison. And if you want to avoid sorbitol, go for it. There's nothing wrong with that or taking precautions, but it is always important to note the actual landscape of studies and research, especially when we're hearing a lot of these things on social media. Have some without fear if you want, and if not, you can skip it. Both are fine options. Our second story for today says new research pinpoints the 3 most effective foods for relieving constipation. Now, you will see why we chose this story in just a hot second. So, a new evidence-based review led by researchers has identified specific foods and drinks that appear to be most effective at relieving chronic constipation, moving beyond the general advice to eat more fiber, drink some water. That's what a lot of people recommend. They say that these 3 stand out: prunes, kiwi, and rye bread. They all have these dietary components that help improve bowel and stool consistency. So, number 1. Here we go. Prunes are rich in both fiber and sorbitol. Didn't we just talk about sorbitol? A naturally occurring sugar alcohol. This is where it can be naturally occurring. That draws water into the gut and softens stool. So this is the wild part. It's that one study can be demonizing something while another is really showing the benefits of it. And that's why context is always important, my friends. Kiwi contains both soluble and insoluble fiber, so there are two different types of fiber, as well as an enzyme that may help increase intestinal water content and kind of speed up gut transit. Then number 3 was rye bread, which provides higher fiber content and has been shown in small trials to increase stool frequency. Also, they recommend staying hydrated to help these effects of fiber work more efficiently. So if you are experiencing a little bit of backing up, perhaps include some of these things in your diet and see if they help. We've known that different foods can be helpful, but the novelty in this one was that it was one of the first evidence-based dietary recommendations specific for chronic constipation. And our third story for today is a little hopefully feel-good story for you. It says helping others for even just a few hours a week may slow brain aging. So they found that regularly helping others, whether it's through formal volunteering or informal support, like assisting neighbors, friends, or family, this is associated with a slower cognitive decline as people age. So they found that those who spent 2 to 4 hours per week helping others experienced roughly 15 to 20% slower declines in memory and thinking skills compared to those who did not engage in helping activities. The researchers did adjust for factors like wealth, education, physical, and mental health, making it less likely that the benefits were simply due to healthier or more advantageous people being more likely to help others. We do love to see those things being considered. And engaging socially and purposely, even in small amounts every day, appears to be linked with better long-term brain health. And now, while this research does not prove causation, it's more of a correlation kind of thing, there is a large sample, long follow-up, and careful adjustments for those key variables here that does suggest that a few hours each week helping others could be a pretty simple, meaningful lifestyle factor that can support our cognition as we age. So I'm going to challenge you guys today. If you are listening to this, see if there is just one small act of kindness. It doesn't necessarily need to be that you commit 2 to 4 hours today. Is there just one small act of kindness that you can do for someone today? Maybe it's as small as giving a compliment to the cashier at Trader Joe's. It doesn't need to be anything huge or groundbreaking, but see if you can do that today. Keeping our noggin sharp and helping others feel good too. We'll love to see it. Thank you so much for tuning in again to today's episode of the Looli News. Hope you loved it. Hope you learned something. Hope to see you back tomorrow. And I hope that you also take a moment today to check in with yourself. How are you feeling? What are you needed? Have you drank any water today? Take a second to think through those things. Complete your self-check-in, maybe do a little gratitude, and let's go ahead and tackle the day. And don't forget to do one kind thing for others. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel wherever you are listening or watching this, and we would love a rating or a review. If you found it helpful, it really does help us continue to put these episodes out there, and share it with a friend if you know anyone who you think also would find these daily rundowns interesting. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one.